how hard it is to make decisions when you don't have all the information. That's something inherent in me that I've always dealt with. I don't do well making decisions without having all the angles covered, all the information. It's been almost 10 months now since I got hurt. And the big test for me over that whole period of time has been, where's the information? What decisions do I have to make? It's got an effect because the ability to be patient is not one that I'm very good at. It's gotten better. It's a fruit of the Spirit, but I'm talking, I'm making decisions that are very, very specific and very long-lasting in my life. And God, over the last few months, is making it really clear that He's getting me ready. He's getting me ready to do something else. But I still don't have the information. What do you do when you don't have the information? Do you become the squeaky wheel, or do you wait on God? I went to a doctor today, one of many I've already been to, and there's probably a few left to go, and we talked about it, and we're taking steps, but that step is yet again gonna demand patience. I don't think it's a mistake that my devotional yesterday, as a cascade of things happening, had this very thing in mind. See, that still small voice that God uses to reach you in certain things. For me, I've noticed that He tells me something that really kind of perks my ears. That's the Spirit telling me, pay attention. And then over the next few days, it all totally makes sense as to why He had me looking through a framework, through the glasses of that idea, so that I can make sense of the world. It tells me that God is talking to me, that God's still small voice is alive and well in me. And so when I feel like God has left me, He makes sure He tells me that He hasn't, because it's not just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. And so this daily devotional that I read yesterday, the title is the discipline of spiritual perseverance. Be still and know that I am God. And he writes this: perseverance is more than endurance. It is endurance combined with absolute assurance and certainty that what we are looking for is going to happen. That is endurance plus faith. That if you were playing roulette, you'd put all your chips on the table on Jesus, and then you would take the idea that if Jesus fails, you're out of luck. He won't. He's promised He won't. But you have to believe that if God has brought you this far and He's made these decisions and He's moving you in a direction and you've heard His voice, that you got to trust Him in patience. It continues, He says, if our hope seems to be experiencing disappointment right now, it simply means that they are being purified. They're being tested. They're being refined in the fire. Patience. Every hope or dream of the human mind will be fulfilled if it is noble and of God. But one of the greatest stresses in life is the stress of waiting for God. And that's what he said. And boy, am I ever been part of that. That's exactly where I am. Because major decisions need to be made here in my life. When to make those decisions, I don't know as I move along, because I don't have the information. The problem is because I don't have the information, well, I have one of two choices. I can be the squeaky wheel. Press hard, press in, go after people, try to find information wherever it comes from, and then make a human decision, a flawed decision in my own limited understanding about what's going on. Or I can wait on God to make the decision for me. When God, out in the future, out in beyond where I can see, is taking down mountains, building up mountains into glorious glorious blessings, moving chess pieces that I can't see, so that when He calls on His timing, everything seamlessly works. and is blessed. So now James knows this. James understands this. And as I'm praying today about whether I should go and make waves or I should sit back and let God work the timing out, this is what he gave me today. Knowing that yesterday he said, perseverance, which is enduring to the end while having faith that God's not going to let you down, is the key component of why I'm making any of these decisions at all. James in chapter 1 verse 2 says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials." Okay, James, come on, man. How am I supposed to have joy when things are hard? When I don't have the information, I can't make a decision, and I'm sitting in a time where I don't have the information, and it's uncomfortable for me. So uncomfortable that it is truly affecting a lot of things in my life, my mental aptitude, my emotional being, because I want to get going and I can't, and I haven't been able to for a long time. But there's a reason why God tests and works on and refines our patience, our perseverance. It's because it has a way of making us better. Look what he says. James says it exactly. Know that when you're in a various trial, have joy, because God seemingly finds it important to work on something in your life. We don't ever get tested by good things. If we have too many good things and no trials, the problem there is we forget about God altogether, and we think it's all about us and what we did and how smart we are and how much I did that to make it happen. It's never that way. God's providence is completely in charge of what's happening with us. Now, we're made in the image of God, and we can make decisions. God has allowed us to do that. The birds don't have a decision, but when God says, through Jesus, he says, look, God takes care of the birds. They don't even have to worry. They don't have to store food. They don't have to do these things. They don't have to toil. God feeds them when they need to be fed. God takes care of the flowers. They're beautiful. They don't toil. They don't spin or strain. They get the water they need. They live until they die. Nobody worries except us. And that's because we have the ability to reason through that. But that's a shortcoming and a blessing, both sides. It's something we as people, as sinful people, need to work through. And so James says, look, when you go through a trial, have joy that God cares enough to work on your personality, to work on your perseverance, to work on your faith, to work on you as a person, because he had a dream before you were born as to who he wanted you to be, and well, he's working on it. Just like a potter. You take this clay, it's a lump of clay, you make it wet, you work it on, you have to make it warm. It doesn't want to go anywhere for a while. You have to fight with it. But sooner or later, it starts to give in to the hands of God, the hands of the potter, and he starts to form it into a vessel that he wants it to be, something that he can use for his glory and his kingdom. That's when you start finding out that God's plan for you is amazing, and it brings a great joy to your life. But even the clay needs to be beat up and worked on and dealt with before it starts to give in. So James says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. He says, okay. So realize that when you are being tested, it's testing or it's putting a strain on your faith, your ability to believe that God will not let you down. That part of perseverance, right? Endurance with faith. Faith to believe that God is not going to let you down. He's not. He's promised that. And that anything that is anything that is of you will come along and work out perfectly in God's economy. That if you do something noble, if you ask for something noble and in God's will, he'll give it to you. He's promised us that. He's a giving father, a loving father. So he's going to test your faith and that test which I'm going through right now, a long period of time of not knowing, is testing my faith and is producing patience. Now I want to understand the word patience, because sometimes it's just, I'm just being patient, I'm just waiting. But the word in the Greek is hupomone. It is to bear up under a load. It is to carry a load until its completion, and to understand that that load makes you stronger, but that it's sometimes uncomfortable. Look what it says. The definition of hupomone is a steadfastness, a constancy, or an endurance. And this is the part I want to show you. In the New Testament, the characteristic of a man who is not swerved from his deliberate purpose and his loyalty to faith and piety by even the greatest trials and suffering. Here it is. That's the word. It tests a patience that says, be patient in the eyes of difficulty and hardship, even the hardest stuff. That you will not abandon your faith, and that you will strengthen those around you in faith. What did Jesus say to Peter? Look, you're going to be tested you're going to be sifted like wheat by Satan, but I've prayed for you, and that your faith wouldn't fail. And then when you come back, when you return, when your faith didn't fail and you have been built up and your patience has been strengthened, I want you to strengthen your brothers with the same. That's what I'm doing here. That the things that I learned through the word and through the trials that I'm going through most likely will probably come to you in some way. And I want to bring God's revelation that in my life to you, because you may be in the same place. It may not be my kind of decision, but you're in a place without information, waiting to see something, and that you understand that the trial that you're being put through, God is allowing to use your faith to build your hupomone, your patience, your faith, your endurance, your steadfastness in the light of hard stuff, that you wouldn't walk away. And so, what does that mean? Well, that means that I'm not the squeaky wheel, because I'm not to work and walk in my own flesh and in my own timing and in my own power. But by hupomone, by steadfastness in loyalty to my faith and piety, my loyalty to God, that yes, I have to be patient, and yes, He's not going to fail me. I know that in His time and in His way, that which I seek after will be accomplished. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take, but I know that it's working a perfect work in me. And of course, it says here, as he continues, that I can ask for wisdom. He'll give it to me liberally if I believe, and I'm not, and I don't question that. See, because as we read in verse 6, it says, but let him ask in faith. Let him ask about wisdom and knowledge and direction and what's going in faith, with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Basically what he's saying, what James is saying is here is you need to ask God for wisdom, but ask by faith. Because somebody who doesn't have faith but gets the information, even when he does get the information from the Lord, he doesn't see it as its steadfastness that the word of God is, the truth. And therefore he hems and haws, it goes back and forth, and it's like a man being tossed by the waves. A man who does not sit in a stable position, knowing that his steadfastness and his faith and his piety won't lead him to the right answer. And so he gets all fluttery, and then he starts chasing dreams. That doesn't work for me. I can't do that. I have to stand and walk shoulder to shoulder with Jesus, knowing that if I walk in patience, He's going to give me the information that I need. I will ask in faith, and I will act in kind, because it is Him who's in charge of what's going on. It is in Him moving the mountains and moving the chess pieces far beyond where I can see it. It is Him who's doing all this work, and He will move in the hearts and minds of those through providence to get things done on His timing. Now, I can look back at the beginning of all of this, when I prayed, Lord, you're going to have to change my heart. You know that I'm a stubborn man, and this is where me and my own faith and my own understanding is going to go. And you know that if you don't change it, it's not going to change. And lo and behold, by patience and perseverance and this faith testing that I've been going through and all of this, it hasn't been easy. It's been very difficult, but my heart's changed. He's done exactly what I told him he had to do. And now I'm in a place where I'm excited about the future because I know God is in control. See, this refines us in ways that are incredible. And so the only answer here is, unless God says, I need you to step out and do something in my name, wait for me. Be still and know that I am God. Stand still and wait for me to redeem you. Wait for my deliverance of you. Wait for the power to show itself in you. Wait for me in patience. Sit still and wait until the issue is resolved. That is the type of hupomone we must have. Faith and perseverance, right? Endurance with faith to know that God will never fail you. Be blessed this week, and I love you.